Hello, good afternoon. We shall now start the fourth session of the conference. My name is Javier Rodrigo Blanco. I work for Escolab. So we're going to start straight away. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Emilio Benitez. He's the director of the Regional Service of IGN in the Valencian community, in the Region of Valencia. He's going to talk about geometric improvement of boundary lines between jurisdictions or districts. I am a member in the Geographic National Institute. I joined recently. The institute has a very good website, in my opinion, with information on all the sections of the Geographic Institute, such as, you can see all the icons on the screen: seismic activity on a daily basis, with seismic information on a daily basis, geodesics. You can draw all the files for the geodesic network. So you can access this website directly. The web address is ign.es. I recommend you to enter this site because you can even download maps, current maps and historic ones as well. So access is full to this institute. In February, we will organize an exhibition at Palau Cervero. It will be entitled 175 Years of Official Maps. And this exhibition is about the history of official cartography in Spain. In fact, the National Geographic Institute was created 140 years ago. And the exhibition will include different panels about the institute. Some historic devices will be on show as well, will be part of the exhibits. In the institute, a tiny portion is devoted to boundary lines between jurisdictions. I'm going to tell you what this is all about. I will give you the background first, the goals, and the meetings held by councils for these questions concerning boundaries between councils. Right, background information. Through IDEs, people are used to getting lines, boundary lines, taking them to their maps and draw plans directly. But when these webmaster services data are drawn, civil lines, even in our institute, I'm not putting the blame on anybody, the National Topographical Map, the Regional Service, or the National Downloads Center, which is, we can clearly see that the lines do not coincide. All the maps, when you go and try and find the line is not the same. Many organizations tell you, well, then go and take the official line. Well, the official line given by my institute is for small scales, 1,000, 1 million. If you represent things at that scale, then obviously the lines apply. Furthermore, these boundary lines were marked in the field by milestones. which, well, in many cases have disappeared nowadays. The organizations responsible for updating these stones have very much neglected their work. Their duty is to replace them if they're damaged, but many of them are gone now. And the Geographic National Institute was concerned with that, but unfortunately the works, well, unfortunately or fortunately I may say, these works were done in a very rudimentary way, using the compass and tachymeter distances, which were fine for a 1/25,000 scale, but let's have a look. On the left we see 1/50,000. The lines coincide except for areas where modifications were made. In other words, so for this type of a scale, the lines, though they do not match each other, they do not really depict reality. Well, they can use for certain purposes, though they are not particularly valid for today. At that scale, even the areas which had no modifications produce or throw discrepancies. What happens with maps such as this one, or an orthophotograph plot map? Well, in these cases, mistakes are massive. While talking about a 100-meter gap or difference between lines. Why? Because the lines that were valid for a scale 1/50,000 is no longer good. They should be removed. But it is easier to go and take the official boundary line at a 1/50,000 scale, and that will be it. Furthermore, in 1979, the Department for Agriculture and Fisheries was given competency and power to liaise with the Directorate General for Local Administration. So there was a matter, an issue of competencies and powers as well as regards provincial boundary marks. However, for national boundary lines, the Geographic Institute remains competent. For those lines which have not been modified, the milestones can be easily replaced within a short or tight error margin or tolerance. The Geographic Institute, via its central services, provides logbooks and boundary records, original boundary records dating back to the 19th or the 20th century. A small fee needs to be paid following a quote for their management. The regional department in the Valencia region reaches agreements with provincial councils, with city councils, or anybody willing to rearrange those boundary lines. And even the Directorate General is trying to reach agreements with different regions in Spain, such as Castilla-La Mancha, with which an agreement was signed recently. The goal is to improve all this data. And how can all these records and data be improved? First, the conditions and specifications documents need to be downloaded from the website of the Geographic Institute to see how these works are to be undertaken. If you call us, then you are given advice. If you come from a municipal council, a city council, advice is given to technicians. Of course, we are willing to foster the recovery of all milestones, and of course we need to bear in mind the act dating back from 1971, which says that all the maps have to be transferred on ETRS 89. The next step is for all those official lines to be entered into the official download section of the website. If a person, an individual, a company needs to download the data in ETRS 89 format, then they could be adapted and used. First things first, a written document was sent to all councils informing them about this procedure, about the possibility of being advised, as I told you. These letters were signed by the sub-delegate and the former director of the Institute and myself. The letter was sent to all councils for them to know we were available. This is the recommendations manual or guide, which you can download from councils or other organizations. First of all, you can contact the Institute directly to participate in this project. And of course, everybody can call. We will try to do our best in staffing the calls. There is another way of addressing the Institute. Your technicians can contact us, and then our technicians can give advice or actually carry out the works and do the geometric control of the works already done. Or number 3, the council, a particular council, may do things themselves, but in this case, control is not exerted by the Institute, which delegates on lower levels, which will then oversee the works. The final outcome being sent back to us at the Institute. When an agreement is signed or entered into, we convene the boundary line committees. We call all the technicians involved. We do all the paperwork, and we record things in the central registry. We go on site and oversee the works and provide technical advice. And we also call the land registrar or the notary public. We do a few tests as well on site about on all the works conducted in the field by a particular company or a particular council. This is an example of the signing of an agreement for the boundary lines between Alberic and Gavarda, which will now be passed on to other municipalities or councils, which will join in short, because they also have borderlines with these 2 towns. Other administrative tasks have to be done too. First of all, the original boundary documents are checked from 1920 in very nice handwriting, as you can see, and an official transcribes the whole document with all the features of the milestone and the boundary lines. We do the geo-referencing. We using the original milestones, and we also work out the total number of stones to cover all of the lines, all of the boundary lines. Another mission, another task is to see the logbooks, the field books, which you can see here, the original ones with the measurements, slope, etc., and the slope angle. Calculations are done to try and complete these boundaries. Once all coordinates are collected, they are entered into a DBF table, and based on that, using we open it with gvSIG on gvSIG or on Quantum GIS. We then apply a number of translations. We use ETRS 89 grid IGN NTV2, and we use all available resources, PNOA, the georeference cadastre, with a view to obtaining approximate coordinates to try and find the boundary stones in the field. All these actions are aimed at obtaining the right coordinates, which can be compared later. We then develop the whole line. This is the Alberique-Gabarda case and their boundary lines, the border between these two towns. Once the markers from 1930, the boundary stones are found and identified, we check that these stones are there. Here's one right in the center, and we then go on field, we go on site, and all the boundary stones we find, we enter the coordinates on the GPS. This is another display, another viewer, sorry. This one is very close to the road, as you can see. So the boundary stones are found and located, which helps us draw quite good coordinates by georeferencing the drawings from the cadastre. The margin is very good, 2 meters, 2.5 meters. These boundary stones are sometimes very wide. Right, for our office work, we resort to all available means, the original notebooks or logbooks, drawings on those notebooks, and the overhead photographs of 1956, which could be helpful sometimes. It can all help. And we then georeference the original plans and drawings done in 1930 were available. The accuracy for these ones, for these drawings, for these plans, are not bad. Once the fieldwork, this fieldwork is done, we analyze the work to be done following the commission by the town hall, by the council, and we check whether there is a big discrepancy between data. If discrepancy is large, then we need to relocate the stones or the points. The next step is to check things with the cadaster to try and see if the difference is too large. If it is too large, we go back on site. Of course, all those boundary stones that are missing need to be given coordinates based on the findings. To that end, we use IGN data or data from the network ERVA, and so the coordinates to be obtained are very good. We then do a little presentation for the boundary committees for them to see where the line is, and we even show them a video, or if necessary, we explore doubts on site. With the final coordinates, a report is written, an additional report, which needs to be signed by all the councils involved, and then they need to be subject in their council meetings. Conclusions. I would recommend you to contact us to use our service, which is dedicated to this particular mission. We are here to help councils and update things so that Royal Decree 1071 can be complied with, which is obviously compulsory for all councils. It's now time to do it, because these boundary stones are very old. Some of them have already disappeared. So the idea is for all cartographies and maps to have the same coordinates for boundaries to match, really. And it is important for us to reach cooperation agreements with the regions from the National Institute. If we manage to define boundary lines accurately, then urban planning actions or in any areas, these plans will never be appealed. Otherwise, there will always be disputes and appeals. Let me show you a few examples. This is the Albufera Lake in Valencia. Please note, Valencia and Mislata reach an agreement and they change their cadaster line. However, the official line is this one here, the yellow one. Why? Because that amendment was never taken to discussion in the council, and therefore it was never approved, which explains why both lines, blue and yellow, do not match. It's chaotic if you don't do it, if you don't fix it like this. Have a look. If you download a line from a web map service, you want to be well aware of this. Okay, at the end, I am available at Joaquín Ballester Street, floor 5. Thank you, Emilio.
We'll leave the questions for the end.